Hidden in the remote corners of the Pacific Ocean lies a mysterious island, home to over 800 towering stone statues that have baffled the world for centuries. How did the ancient people of Easter Island craft these colossal moai? And what secrets do they hold about power, spirituality, and the rise and fall of a civilization? Join us on a journey to uncover the untold stories behind the Moai statues and the enigmatic culture that created them. A story of ingenuity, mystery, and survival that still captivates us today. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, is one of the most remote places on Earth, located in the southeastern Pacific Ocean. Part of Chile, this small volcanic island is surrounded by vast ocean and lies over 2,000 miles away from the nearest continental landmass. Its isolation has added to its mystique, captivating explorers, historians, and archaeologists for centuries. Despite its small size, just 63 square miles, Easter Island is home to some of the most fascinating and enigmatic archaeological features in the world, the Moai statues. These towering stone figures, with their oversized heads and distinct facial features, are scattered across the island, leaving visitors and researchers to wonder about their significance. Who created the Moai? Why were they constructed? What role did they play in the lives of the island's inhabitants? The Moai statues are at the heart of Easter Island's history and culture. The mystery surrounding their construction and the society that built them is one of the greatest unsolved puzzles of ancient civilization. What is the true significance of the Moai statues, and how did such a remarkable culture emerge and thrive in such isolation? Easter Island's first settlers are believed to have arrived around 800 to 1200 AD, most likely from the Marquesas Islands in the Central Pacific. These early Polynesians, navigating vast distances across the ocean with nothing but stars and the currents to guide them, brought with them their traditions, culture, and knowledge. Their arrival marked the beginning of a unique society that would adapt to and shape the island's isolated environment. The settlers found an island with fertile volcanic soil, but they also encountered an environment with limited resources. The island's remoteness and small size made communication with other civilizations nearly impossible. Over time, the inhabitants of Easter Island became increasingly isolated from the outside world. Despite these challenges, they managed to develop a sophisticated society, utilizing the island's natural resources to build a thriving culture. As the Rapa Nui civilization grew, so too did the prominence of the Moai statues in their society. These statues, carved from volcanic tuff, a porous volcanic rock, were not merely decorative. They were symbols of power and a direct link to the ancestral gods. The Moai were often associated with high-ranking chiefs or tribal leaders, representing their divine connection to the island's spiritual and political life. The statues were typically placed on stone platforms called ahu, which also served as tombs for the chiefs. It was believed that the Moai had the power to protect the island's people, bringing prosperity and fertility to the land. These statues were integral to Rapa Nui religion, with each figure embodying an important ancestor or deity. The construction and positioning of the Moai were key to the political and religious structure of the island, with powerful chiefdoms competing to build the largest and most impressive statues. Unfortunately, the rise of the Moai culture would eventually coincide with the island's downfall. The Rapa Nui population, which had once flourished, began to experience a series of severe challenges, including deforestation, overpopulation, and environmental degradation. The Moai statues were a significant part of this collapse. As the population grew, the demand for resources increased, leading to the depletion of the island's once abundant palm trees, which were crucial for building boats, cooking, and construction. The arrival of Europeans in the 18th century further exacerbated the island's troubles, bringing diseases, slavery, and new external pressures. By the 19th century, the construction of Moai statues had stopped, and many of the existing ones were toppled and abandoned. The once vibrant society of Easter Island had suffered a dramatic decline, leaving behind only the enigmatic stone figures to tell the story of a lost civilization. Today, these statues remain a testament to the achievements and eventual downfall of the Rapa Nui people. The Moai statues are the most iconic feature of Easter Island, standing as monumental symbols of the island's ancient culture. These stone figures, primarily made from volcanic tuff, soft volcanic rock, vary greatly in size, ranging from 10 to 30 feet in height and weighing between 10 to 75 tons. Thousands of Moai statues once dotted the island's landscape, with the majority found at Rano Raraku, a quarry located on the island's slopes. This quarry is where most Moai were carved, using volcanic tuff, while the eyes were made from a combination of coral and red scoria. The Moai statues were constructed by skilled artisans known as Moai builders. These builders used simple, yet effective tools, including basalt chisels and wooden mallets, to carve the statues from the quarry's volcanic rock. The creation of the Moai was an intricate process that required extensive labor and resources, showcasing the sophisticated techniques developed by the Rapa Nui people, despite the island's isolation. Each Moai statue was deeply symbolic, representing not only the physical likeness of the island's ancestors, but also embodying their spiritual power. The Moai were thought to be the physical manifestations of gods, chiefs, or revered ancestors, each serving as a conduit for spiritual influence. The Rapa Nui believed that the Moai could channel the mana, or supernatural energy, from these figures to ensure the prosperity, fertility, and protection of the people. The larger the Moai, the greater the mana it contained, thus reinforcing the importance of the statues within the social hierarchy. The Moai were placed upon ahu, which were stone platforms used as tombs for the chiefs, or gods they represented. This connection between the statues and the ancestors, as well as their role in the island's religion, illustrates the deep cultural and spiritual significance of the Moai. Each statue symbolized specific lineages or deities, reinforcing the ancestral worship that was central to the Rapa Nui society. The belief in the Moai's power was deeply ingrained in the Rapa Nui way of life. The statues were seen as powerful forces that influenced every aspect of life, from agricultural success to the well-being of the people. The Moai were believed to have the ability to bring rain, good harvests, and even control the fate of the island's leaders. Thus, the Moai statues were much more than just artistic achievements. They were central to the survival and prosperity of the entire community. The construction of the Moai statues remains one of Easter Island's greatest mysteries. Researchers have spent decades trying to uncover how these massive figures were carved from the volcanic tuff at Ranararaku, especially since the tools available to the Rapa Nui people were relatively primitive. The most common theory is that the statues were carved using basalt chisels and wooden mallets, tools that would have allowed the builders to shape the soft volcanic tuff, though the process was undoubtedly labor-intensive. Once the Moai were carved, the statues were finished with intricate details, including the defining large heads, which represented the island's chiefs and deities. The eyes of the statues were sometimes inlaid with coral and red scoria, which enhanced the statue's spiritual and symbolic significance. Given the scale and the craftsmanship involved, it is believed that the Moai were considered sacred objects, and their creation was a highly ritualized process that involved the entire community. Equally mysterious is how these massive statues were transported from the quarry at Ranararaku to the various ceremonial platforms across the island. The transportation of the Moai has sparked numerous theories, as the islanders had no access to wheels or advanced mechanical technology. Early theories suggested that the statues were dragged along the ground, either by ropes or sledges. This method would have required a tremendous amount of manpower, with workers coordinating to move these heavy objects across the rugged terrain of the island. A more intriguing theory, however, suggests that the Moai were walked to their locations. According to some researchers, the Rapa Nui may have employed a technique where the statues were rocked back and forth in a coordinated effort, using ropes to sway the Moai and make them walk upright to their final destination. This hypothesis was supported by modern experiments in which large replicas of the Moai were successfully moved using a similar method. To further challenge the mystery of their transportation, experiments have shown that no ropes or wheels were used, leaving researchers to ponder how such ancient technology could accomplish such a feat. Some believe that the transportation of the Moai involved an understanding of leverage and mechanics that surpassed what we typically associate with ancient engineering. The fact that no definitive answer has emerged only adds to the allure of Easter Island's Moai statues, as they continue to be an enigma wrapped in the mysteries of the past. The Moai statues were deeply intertwined with the political structure of Easter Island, Rapa Nui, serving as powerful symbols of leadership and authority. The island was divided into several chiefdoms, each led by a chief known as an ariki. The chiefs were responsible for the welfare of their people, and their power was often symbolized and legitimized through the construction of Moai statues. These statues were not only representations of ancestors, but also embodied the divine power of the chiefs themselves. The larger and more numerous the Moai erected by a chief, the greater their perceived power, which reinforced their status and influence in the society. The competition between rival clans for the construction of Moai was fierce. The chiefdoms sought to outdo each other in terms of the number, size, and grandeur of the statues. This competition was not only a display of wealth and power, but also a demonstration of the chief's ability to command resources and labor. The Moai were central to this rivalry, as they directly influenced the social hierarchy and the political balance of power on the island. This dynamic led to a complex relationship between the Moai and the chiefs, as the construction of Moai became a crucial aspect of maintaining control and gaining political legitimacy. Beyond their political importance, the Moai statues held significant spiritual meaning for the Rapa Nui people. They were seen as representations of deceased ancestors, who were believed to possess spiritual power. The Moai were considered intermediaries between the living and the gods, channels through which the ancestors' mana, spiritual power, could flow. This mana was thought to have the ability to bring prosperity, fertility, and protection to the island and its people. The Moai were often placed on ahu, ceremonial platforms that doubled as tombs for the chiefs or important figures they represented. Each Moai was linked to a specific lineage or deity, and the statues were placed in positions that reflected the ancestral connection and the power of the ruling family. Rituals associated with the Moai were an essential part of Rapa Nui religious life. These included offerings, prayers, and ceremonies, all designed to honor the ancestors and invoke their power for the benefit of the community. Festivals and religious rituals would often be held at the ahu sites, with the Moai as central figures in the ceremonies. These rituals were meant to ensure the continued prosperity of the island, influencing the island's agriculture, weather, and overall well-being. The Moai, through their association with the gods and ancestors, were believed to hold immense spiritual significance, affecting every aspect of the islanders' lives. The decline of Moai worship marks the fall of a significant part of Rapa Nui's cultural identity. Several factors contributed to the eventual collapse of the Moai-centered culture. Internal conflict between rival clans, the depletion of resources necessary for Moai construction, and the arrival of European colonizers all played crucial roles in the decline. As the political structure broke down, so too did the power of the Moai statues. Without the unity that had supported their construction and worship, the Moai lost much of their spiritual and political significance. The downfall of the Moai culture also coincided with the environmental collapse of Easter Island, which severely impacted the island's ability to sustain the large-scale construction and upkeep of the statues. As the islanders faced economic and ecological crises, the Moai worship gradually faded, contributing to the eventual societal collapse. The environmental consequences of Easter Island's Moai culture are one of the most significant factors in the island's collapse. The construction and transportation of the Moai required an immense amount of resources, particularly timber, which was used for making tools, constructing boats, and possibly even moving the statues themselves. Over time, the island's once thriving forests were decimated. Large trees were cut down to create the necessary infrastructure for the Moai, and the soil quality suffered as a result of deforestation. This environmental degradation led to the loss of vital resources, exacerbating food shortages and weakening the island's ability to support a growing population. The depletion of trees also had a profound impact on the Rapa Nui's ability to build boats, which had once been crucial for fishing and trade. As resources dwindled, the islanders found themselves facing a harsh and unsustainable environment, which significantly contributed to social unrest and the eventual collapse of the Moai-centered culture. The arrival of Europeans in the 18th century had a disastrous impact on Easter Island. Early contact brought diseases that devastated the native population, who had no immunity to these foreign illnesses. The spread of disease, coupled with the introduction of external pressures such as slave raids, significantly reduced the island's population. By the time European colonizers arrived, much of the Rapa Nui society had already been severely weakened. The influence of Western powers further eroded traditional Rapa Nui culture. The introduction of new governance, foreign religions, and economic systems undermined the spiritual and political significance of the Moai statues. The Rapa Nui people were subjected to foreign control, and their traditional practices were increasingly marginalized. The destruction of the Moai statues, both through neglect and deliberate action, symbolized the broader collapse of Rapa Nui society under European colonial influence. Despite the challenges posed by external contact and environmental degradation, the Rapa Nui people were able to adapt and survive. While much of their ancient culture was lost during the period of colonization, the islanders maintained their identity through oral traditions and cultural practices. Over time, the Rapa Nui culture was revitalized, particularly in the 20th century, when there was a resurgence of interest in the island's unique heritage. The Chilean government played a key role in the preservation and revitalization of Rapa Nui culture, including efforts to protect the Moai statues and the island's archaeological sites. Today, Easter Island is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and the Moai continue to serve as a powerful symbol of the resilience and survival of the Rapa Nui people. Although their civilization faced enormous challenges, the Rapa Nui have persevered, preserving their culture and reconnecting with their past in the face of a rapidly changing world. The Moai statues of Easter Island remain one of the most intriguing and enduring mysteries in the world. These monumental figures, carved from volcanic tuff and scattered across the island, stand as silent witnesses to the rise and fall of the Rapa Nui civilization. While the exact methods behind their construction and transportation remain subjects of debate, the Moai's significance in Rapa Nui society is clear. They were more than just statues. They were symbols of power, spiritual connections to ancestors, and conduits for mana, the life force that influenced every aspect of the islanders' lives. Easter Island's legacy is not merely confined to the past. It continues to captivate the imagination of those who seek to understand the mysteries of human history, the power of the Moai, and the timeless connection between people and the land they inhabit.